Hi all, and welcome back to the John Deere B restoration. And as you can see, we've got a half shaft in there and a half shaft in on the other side. So we discussed this in the last video, and we got them put in. As you can see at the back here, you see the bull gears and the axle nuts in there, and the split pins holding them all together. And if I turn the differential inside the tractor, inside the main case, sorry, you can see the bull gears turn over. Now, in the book that I have, they talk of a 1 to 4,000th of an inch end float. Again, this is the movement that these things are allowed this way. Obviously I'm exaggerating it with my hand there, but there we are. Well, again, 1 to 4,000th of an inch, you know. If you go down to 2,000ths, I mean, I have nothing that accurate. We'll measure that. So basically what I've done with this one, which I've done with the last 2 or 3 I've done, is I tighten those 2 nuts up. Start again. I put the shafts in from that end, put the bull gear on, and then we use the nut to gently pull the whole thing together. And I tighten them up until they're a nice, relatively nice snug fit. Well, nice fit. And then I back that nut off, and so I can get the split pin in, and generally it's only 1/4 of a turn or something. And no, they've gone in well. They're nice and tight. They're not overly tight. They're just what I call proper. If anything, one side is slightly tighter than the other, but time it's been down the road and bedded in, they'll be fine. Remember, they're not high speed, those shafts. You know, they're not high speed. It'd be interesting actually to jack one corner up once it's up and running, and set it into top gear and flat out on the engine revs, and just see what the RPM of the shaft is. Might do that actually. I bet it's not more than 40 revs a minute, which is definitely not high speed. So you know, you can afford to be slightly on the tight side if you need to be on those bearings, and the big bearings as well, they'll stand it, so that'll be fine. Those. So one other little tip, if you're doing this and you've got a half shaft out, is and I learnt this with experience on the very first one I did, where these cap screws go in to hold this outer dust cap on. Obviously the inner felt plate is sandwiched there in between. Can you see the 2 plates? And I banged it all together, and of course that inner felt plate actually is a tight fit in the housing, and so all of a sudden I realised that the holes didn't line up. So all I did was I found a bolt. The last time I did one, I have a bolt which has the head cut off, screwed in there, and it acts as a guide for when everything just is pulled up too. So there's a tip for you. So yeah, so that's the axle. Still waiting for some bearings for the gearbox. I've got some but not all, so when they turn up we'll do the gearbox. But as you can see, you probably saw early on, the engine block's back in. So got it all cleaned off, shot blasted, first coat of undercoat on it, and it's cleaned up really well. Bit of a spoiler though, we did eventually put, well, let me start again. We did eventually, once we got the block out and looked at it in the daylight, we found that the where it had been seized up with water, the bores were quite badly pitted. And so I decided, as I've gone this far down the road with it, we'd rebore it. So originally it had 45 thou oversize. whether those pistons were original from the factory or whether someone's rebought it later in its life. I'm guessing probably the latter, really. But anyway, it's now 90,000th oversize. I got some pistons and we bought it out 90,000 oversize. So yeah. See if we can get a picture here. There we go. So yeah, no, they've hatched up well, those. They look good. No word of a lie, but I took nearly ½ an inch of sludge out of those water galleries at the bottom there. See those holes, little holes below the cylinders? There was nearly ½ an inch of just sandy sludge. I'm guessing whoever had it last maybe topped the water system up on occasion out of the stream. I'm sure it happens. But yeah. Interestingly, when we came to bolt the block in, I actually was going to bolt it in, as you can see here, with no support on the front, and I found the block was binding, it bound up. And of course then I remembered, of course, the amount of flex that you get in this joint here. I think I mentioned it in past videos. And they really do flex in here, amazing. You wouldn't think cast would flex as much as it does. But so what I did was I moved that block of wood there, brought it along and put it under here, under the main case, and then lowered the front of the chassis down and took the weight out of it, and the block just slid in like nothing. It just slid in. So yeah, it's amazing how much they do bend. But once that block's in, it's rigid as hell. It's going nowhere, you know. There's this row of bolts around the outside, bolt there. I don't know if we can see this underneath, but there's bolts there and all over really. So yeah, it really makes it 10 times stronger. So yeah, that's as far as we've got with that at the moment. I think the next job will be to fill that hole in the bottom there. We'll put the get the oil pump cleaned up and put that back in. I think that's the next job in there. And as I say, once we get bearings for in the gearbox, we'll have the gearbox put back together. So over here on the bench we have the cylinder head, which again I shot blasted totally, and I've given a light spray of undercoat. Funnily enough, in this water jacket area, it too was absolutely solid with sand. How on earth it's been cooling, I just don't know. But anyway, we cleaned it all out with a pressure washer, and it's okay. When we obviously these are the valve guides. Not one of them is incorrectly. They're all up and down. I mean, the middle two should be slightly higher than the outer two, but on this one they're nowhere near where they should be by specification. And if we turn it over, and let me see now. When I took the valves out, it's actually had 2 new exhaust valves put in, which is a shame because I've gone and bought 2 new ones. But on that exhaust valve there's a nasty little, I don't know if that's going to come out there, but there's a nasty little mark there. So whether I'll have to, when I get the new valves, I'll put them in, but I think we'll have to probably have inserts put in there. We shall see. I'll take it down to my machine shop and ask them. I don't know if you can see the swirl in the cylinder head. It's a very early attempt at this. It's sort of like corkscrewed. It's to give the fuel air mixture, when it's drawn in through this inlet, a swirling motion inside the cylinder. And the idea was to give it a good mix and a good burn. Later on they did it actually, the swirl was built into the top of the piston on later engines. Yeah, so we shall see. Obviously it needs new valve guides putting in, and as I say, we'll try and get them a bit leveler than than they are at the moment. Yeah. So there we go. Anyway, this video seems to be running away with myself at the minute. It takes forever to upload them, but that's where we are at the moment. So yeah, we're getting there. Pedestal, still not here. I don't know. Somebody told me this engineering shop that I'm using is very slow. So we shall ring them and see if we can get it moved along a bit now. It's getting nearly to be 4 weeks since he's had it, so it needs getting done now. Okay then, hope that was of interest. Thanks for watching. Bye.